Okay, well, this hat, if you can read it, the light's not the best, is Squad. And it's basically about what it's like to be part of a squad of beings that are not able to control who comes and not really joins the squad, but changes the direction of the squad. Okay? So, let's see, my next hat is Brazil. And when I wear the hat Brazil, it is to do with the movie Brazil, which is such a hard movie for me to watch that I stopped the movie maybe 10 or 15 minutes in. I couldn't handle it. But I think that's the whole point of Brazil, the movie. It is so Byzantine, which comes from Byzantium, which is an old name for Istanbul, Turkey, which was also um, Constantinople. And that was a famous place because it was full of government bureaucrats. And if you wanted to get something done, it was unbelievably difficult because you had to go from bureaucrat to bureaucrat who would give you a stamp on your proposal, for example. And then you'd be sent, or maybe you wouldn't be sent, you wouldn't know. You'd have to try and figure out who all you had to find to get all the stamps of approval in order to get your project done. And that's what I think of Brazil. It's so complicated, no one can figure it out. And even if you do figure it out, someone else will change the rules after you've got all your ducks in a row, and then you'll have to start over again if they don't like you for some reason. Okay. The next hat is my Las Vegas pink hat, which is the hat of Bob Frizzell, the movie producer for Epic Productions and other ones. Bob Frizzell, as a movie producer, I am looking to make product that people will watch. I am looking for cutting edge stories, things that might be told in different ways in other people's worlds, but I'm trying to give you a fresh approach, and I don't always give you the same story the same way. So we have different characters and different what we call reality boxes. So a reality box is like one way of looking at things. It's like if you've got a faceted gemstone, you can turn it in different directions with your hand in the light, or use different colored lights, maybe fluorescent lights or infrared lights, black lights, in order to see what it looks like in different ways. So we're trying to do lots of examinations that way. All right. So let's see. This hat is an orange hat, and it is basically a safety hat. So if you're the safety man on a job, your job is to look for dangerous items and tape them off so people don't go there, and maybe conduct safety lectures about known dangers. And some dangers are managed dangers. In other words, if you're a miner and you have to go and work underground, well, being underground, there's a certain element of danger just because cave-ins. So because you're underground. So they're managed because you use frameworks to, support the ceiling and the walls of your mine shaft. But, it's managed danger, and if it's done with proper engineering, it should be pretty safe. But you should know about it. And, there's certain, unless you're going to use a Star Trek transporter beam and transport your minerals out of the ground by some kind of a beam, if you've got to send people down underground, there's an element of danger there. So that's just an example of what the safety man would give you, best practices, and, watching to make sure that people who have been given training on best practices are using it. Or are they slacking off and being lazy and doing things the lazy man's way, the dangerous way, but maybe it's less physical effort, or you can do it faster this way, or you could do it without as many people as you're required to do it, because perhaps you're short-staffed and you need to do your production because you're going to get screamed at if you don't get your production done. And you're going to get screamed at if you get caught doing things shorthanded the wrong way. So maybe you feel like you're damned one way or another. The thing is that if you do it unsafely, you might get fired, and someone could get majorly hurt. If you don't get your production done, well, depending on what your production is, worst case scenario is your company goes bankrupt because there's no production. But it may be, it's very difficult to say, because then if everyone loses their job, then they've got no money to buy food. So it's a damnable thing, these kind of industries. Let's see. My next hat, I call this Sitting Bull, because he is a very smart and wise person who knows about looking after future generations, which is just as important as looking after the present generation, and also consulting with generations that have come before, ancestral spirits. So someone who is well aware of the past, the future, and the present, and is looking to use best wisdoms to guide us. Okay, so the message from Sitting Bull today is he likes to sit quietly, and he might stare at you to see if you flinch, because he's testing you. If he's looking at you with an intensity to see if you're going to start running your mouth. He looks to see if you are flaky, trustworthy, if what your story says makes sense, common sense, or sense in some other fashion, or if it's completely off the wall but should be considered because everything else has been tried and found wanting. This is my Honduras hat, which I always think of as the South American and Central American countries, which were always under Yankee domination, the United Fruit Company, and are always vilified by the American media as being hotbeds of rebellion. So whether it's Cuba or Venezuela, in the old days it was Argentina, all these countries were needing Yankee intervention, and there was always an excuse for the CIA to topple one party or another that was anti-American. Why would they be anti-American? Well, primarily because American companies had come in and maybe dammed up rivers, and the native people got upset because there was no more fish in the river. Maybe they were using mining practices that were highly polluting. Maybe they were cutting down the Amazon forest. God knows what else. Always blaming these countries for cocaine production. So, always a reason to go in there and stomp your feet and say, I'm an American and I want things changed, and I want all the profits to come back to me and my multinational corporation. I am coming up to my 10-minute mark, which I usually try and stop at. The squad wants you to know that just because things happen the way they do, it's not necessarily the will of the squad, but sometimes the squad is commandeered by others of higher rank and higher power, or stronger power, but of negative influence. I'm Harry Weaver.